And welcome to Conservatives Talk.
And this week, we're going to talk about how the Dems actually have the nerve to say that Republicans are protecting the gunmen over children. Then we're going to get into, with that even being said, Babylon B, was it right? Are we running out of conspiracy theories? Because some things are actually coming true. And if they keep making up more garbage like this, then we'll say we're running out. Also, is Biden's legacy actually putting lipstick on a pig? Because we think that the whole legacy behind his administration is them hiding it. We'll talk about the CNN article on it. And then let's get into what Fauci actually admits, because he, if I'm not mistaken, he admits that the massive federal power grab was, more of a overreach with the mask mandates.
Oh well, he specifically said that the Department of Justice appeal was specifically for regaining federal power.
So we're going to talk about that as soon as we get back.
And welcome back to Conservative Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we always like to start the show by saying like and subscribe to everything that you see out there and share everything that you see all the content that we produce and put out there. It really helps us to be able to gain a lot more support and grow our messaging platform and to really be able to get our message out and into further reaches than what we are right now. And if you're able to, please go to the website listed on the screen there with you. It's conservativestalk.org, and hit the sponsor tab in the top right-hand corner or the bottom right-hand corner and help us out with what you can if you're able to. Everything that we do with this show is coming out of what we're able to do with our sponsors.
And it's completely reinvested.
Exactly.
And that's the beautiful of it. So everything that you see here in our studio is from our sponsors, and we continue to reinvest it to make our show great. That's how we got our friend Buck here.
Exactly. Yeah, Buck's making is going to be our permanent third-party host on this. As always, Buck's a natural conspiracy theorist. So he's
more, but he loves that hat.
He does. He really does. He speaks to us though.
Absolutely. So can I say my favorite part?
By all means, please.
So we are now 157 days until we beat Stacey Abrams.
Oh,
love it.
The sound of it is never getting old.
I love it. That's why I'm still wearing my Brian Kemp hat over here. And we'll talk about this lovely shirt in just a little bit. Yeah. Since we're talking about conspiracy theories today, we're gonna really get into something.
Yeah, we brought out our special equipment because we don't want Big Brother reading our thoughts.
We don't want you to miss anything here. So let's
jump right into it. So the first topic. So the Democrats held a special hearing today in the U.S. House, where it was an emergency hearing, essentially what it was. They felt like it was such an important issue that they had to call all the members, or at least the members of the Judiciary Committee, back into a conference and hold a meeting to where they are essentially instituting a massive gun control bill. And that massive gun control bill is filed under H.R. 7910. That's H.R. 7910. Please just go in, see what it's doing. It's called the Protecting Our Kids Act. But quite frankly, all it is it's a massive gun grab.
Well, here's the problem, right? And here's what I have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
Is this is, once again, they are taking something that's very personal and very problematic in our country, and they're trying to make it a political issue.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
It's a massive knee-jerk.
Their numbers are failing.
Yes.
Biden has a 23% approval rating. The administration's horrible, and we're going to get into that in a minute because they don't even know what they're going to do. And so what they decide to do is they're going to say, you know what, we're going to use this to say that you Republicans are supporting the government, not our children. Are you kidding me?
They literally in that hearing today, they said that they were there, or the Republicans were there supporting the gunmen that killed the children and did not support the children.
And
that
look,
was murdered.
Look, those of us who are in politics,
Mhm.
let me explain something to you. Like when you look at the House versus the Senate, right? There's this ideological feel that the House is historically the House has been more of where your rambunctious members are.
It was intended to be set up that way.
It was intended to be the place where you really got into your theatrical presence inside of Congress. The
Yes.
Senate, on the other hand, was more your legacy,
Long-term
long-term
yes.
seat, which is why the term limits are different, which is why there's only 100 of them versus,
A cadre.
yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a big difference in how they act and how they proceed through things.
Yes.
So the theatrics that you see inside of the House are the norm.
Yes.
It's been that way since we've had the Constitution that set up all three, branches of government.
Mm-hmm.
What I have a problem with is you're essentially you really are coming down and you're literally making something of this personal political.
Yes, and the sad thing about it is they may have the votes in the Senate to be able to do something like this.
Well, because and we discussed this in the last show.
Mm-hmm.
They're
our special anyway.
On our special. They're I'm South Park reference. Anyway. Memorial Day special instead of pandemic special.
That show is more prophetic than anything else out there.
I love it. Like, you know what I mean? Because like South Park really tells us how dumb we are sometimes, because it shows us how awful our arguments on both sides are.
It's incredible.
If you really like go down to the basics, like here's the thing, and that really ties into what this is. Here's the basics. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We got to figure out how to protect our kids from open elements, period.
Yes.
One situation that we had when I was in school, and I talked about this on our special, was we had multiple bomb threats when I was in school. And after like the fourth one, we all kind of like were sitting there on the football field because that's where we were supposed to go. And we were like, anyone who's like watched the last 4 bomb threats and realized we're going to the football field would just set a bomb here. Do you know what I mean? Like, because like, why? You would say the note's over here, and if you were actually legit, then you would just blow up the field because you'd seen how we'd go. Like, so I think that this is not to take away from what just happened, but we really do have to think of and be more mindful of ways to protect our school and protect our children.
So let's get into what HR 7910 is actually going to try and do. So one of the big things that it's going to do is that it's going to require gun storage. So it's going to require you to store your guns in a safe fashion. Essentially, gun cabinets, gun locks, anything that would essentially keep a barrier between you and a fire or anyone else in a firearm. So if someone breaks into your house, you're going to have to search for the key to unlock your gun, your trigger lock there, pull the trigger lock off in the middle of the night in the dark, and then be able to defend yourself. That's essentially what that is going to cause.
I was taught as a child to have a shotgun at my feet and 2 Glocks crossed across my chest.
Sounds like some Boondock Saint stuff. I mean, I've got 2 in my nightstand right now. Neither one are in a gun safe or a gun lock.
I mean, well, so we've talked about this personally,
but
here's the hard part about when you start having the conversation of, and everybody wants to say, oh, America has such a higher level of gun violence, right? What they don't take to an account is what in that statistic is actually preventative of another crime.
Yes.
Nor do we have where you separate out or you can't even like really try to do a statistical analysis on this of where gun violence itself is the deterrent of another crime. So, example, right? Any situation where we have what could have been a robbery, home invasion, rape or anything of that nature, to where the would have been victim had a gun to shoot the person, then you don't see that. All you're going to see is in a statistical analysis is that there's a homicide and there's someone who got shot, because the crime that could have happened didn't happen because the person who was attacking someone had a gun.
Yes. So in the hearing today, and I know that Congressman Massey brought up a multitude of examples, but what triggered him bringing up a multitude of examples, and I forgot the name of the congressperson that actually said this, but they were talking about how they could not think, or they could not find a single example of where somebody stopped a would-be mass shooting with a firearm or another AR. If a person was going in to commit a mass shooting with an AR, they could not think of another time when somebody else stopped that with another firearm. Then Congressman Massey got up there and brought up literally a litany of a list of things that are instances that brought this up. So Democrats are basing this stuff on pure conjecture. That there's nothing
Pure
that they're
conjecture.
actually using to base any
I
of
mean,
their,
we even had one in Georgia that
evidence on.
we even have one in Georgia that
In
recently
South Fulton
happened,
County, yes.
to where it was a graduation party,
Mhm.
and kudos to this woman who
Yes.
stood up. Man stands up with an AR-15
Mhm.
and just starts shooting in the air, and he's getting ready to start shooting the crowd, and she kills him
Yep.
because she had a handgun right there on her.
Absolutely.
Now, when you go try to find a peer review on that, all it's going to say is that, here's the homicide rate in the state of Georgia.
Yes. Facebook may label that with a fact check. So be careful with that one. So another one is that they're trying to move the age of being able to purchase any sort of firearm, literally any sort of firearm at this point in time, from 18 to 21, to where if you're not able to purchase any firearm whatsoever until you're 21 years old. If they said they can't ban ARs, then they're going to ban 18-year-olds from buying ARs.
We saw this on we spoke about this on the Memorial Special, because I think that
it's a lot of people on the ground that fought for 18-year-olds to be able to hold.
Well, you know what? I think that what the problem is, I think what the real situation is that we are moving as a society to where everything that we were able to do at 18, what the generation before was able to do at 16, they're trying to push to 21. Like, think about it. In the state of Georgia, you got to be 21 to buy tobacco now.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Well, nationally.
It's national?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize it was national.
That was a President Trump deal.
That's even worse.
But yeah,
because here's the thing. Like, can you imagine like one of the worst decisions I ever did was I went to college in Alabama at 18 years old, not knowing that you couldn't buy dip in Alabama until you were 19. You know what it's like moving away and then realizing you can't go get a can of Copenhagen.
I don't, because I didn't get there until I was 20.
See, so again, that goes to the whole fact of I think that everything that's happening is there.
It's all knee jerk. There's nothing
knee-jerk reaction, and I
it.
think it's a larger push from the left to try to make everything 21.
But yet everything outside of voting, because they want 16-year-olds to be able to vote.
Yeah, before I promise you, mark my words, right? 2028, they're going to be asking for the right to enlist to be 21.
Well, we'll see about that one.
Because we're going to win 2024 as long as everybody votes.
Yes, we're going to win 2022 as well.
Oh yeah, that's already locked.
Well,
I know. I'm counting my chickens before they hatch. But
so got a long way to go on that one. But so one of the next things they're trying to do is the universal background checks, and essentially what that is going to do is allow the federal government to extend your ability to buy a firearm from 3 days to 10 days. So if the ATF and the FBI take more than 3 days, then you can just go in and pick up the firearm.
Currently,
because they're not doing their jobs. But this will extend it. Yes, they'll extend it from the 3 days to a 10-day. So essentially, they're keeping you from being able to pick up. There's no more 3-day waiting period. It takes it from the 3-day to a 10-day. And then the next one being
as a paper pusher, that works, but as in reality, that's not a big thing.
Bureaucracy. So what they're also wanting to do is to ban AR-15s completely,
which is a problem.
100%, because I would say more than half of the firearms in America are AR-15s, or at least AR-15 style.
Yeah.
Then they're wanting to ban high capacity magazines, which if
Another
you
problem.
are a sports shooter in any competition level, if you do this for fun, if you do this for a living, I mean, just going out and having a good time in your backyard, you have a 30-round magazine.
Yep.
They're wanting to say you can't have that because you might be a mass killer.
Which is another problem, because now we're labeling people, which is one thing that they said that they didn't want to do, but now they're trying.
Unless you're LGBTQ, A, B, C, E, F, G.
No, we can't do that in their month.
Well, just watch me. Just watch me. So that's one big thing that they're wanting to do. And another member, Congressman Steuben from Florida, actually brought up several of his firearms that he uses in his daily carry. Actually, I carry the same firearm that he uses, SIG 365 XL. SIG 365 XL has a minimum of a 15-round magazine. So if he's not able to carry that, if they ban the high capacity magazines to make it to where any magazine more than 10 rounds is illegal, that firearm is literally nothing more than a paperweight to me. So I'm
because you can't even use it,
exactly,
because you can't even
they
load
don't make exactly, they don't make anything like that, nor will they ever make anything like that.
Yeah.
So another one they're trying to do, which is actually kind of a little funny, they're trying to codify the ban of bump stocks. Bump stocks are already banned, folks. They're trying to federally ban bump stocks.
Didn't they already do that?
Yeah, an accessory that's already been banned.
See, this is my problem, right? And we saw this in Texas right after that horrendous shooting.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
well, it was Las Vegas in Nevada.
Well, I'm not talking about that one.
Oh,
with the
okay.
ban.
All right.
I'm talking about.
I got you.
Recently,
I got
right?
you. I got you.
Like Governor Abbott got up there and he starts speaking, and then here comes the Democrat.
Yeah. Oh, Pete Buttplug.
Yeah. So here comes the Democrat, and he's like, I want to say a few words too, and literally everyone is like, you SOB, like you're using this as a political moment.
Mm-hmm.
The entire country sees you. And once again, you're showing that the Biden administration and everybody else like clearly has no clue. They're just trying to get a political win out of this. And speaking of that,
keep in mind he's also the transportation secretary as well.
Well, like, didn't I just hear something like even more outlandish? Like they're going to use this to like try to like pack the courts again. Like, what is that? Like,
yes.
What does that have to do with
Representative Jones from New York, a newly elected Democrat, part of AOC squad?
No,
literally part of AOC squad, said that and he openly admitted that if Republicans stood in the way of enacting this law, then they would be nuking the filibuster and would be pushing to expand the court after that in case any piece of legislation came forward was deemed unconstitutional, because every single one of these provisions that are in this bill were deemed unconstitutional under the Ninth Circuit Court, the Ninth Appellate Circuit Court in California, the most liberal-leaning court in the entire country, deemed all of these provisions unconstitutional.
There it is, folks. They just flat out told us in that moment what their entire objective is.
Yep.
Because they know, and we're going to get into that in a second, they know that they're running out of every option that they have. So they are now trying to take our tragedies and make them into political points for the purpose of trying to pack our courts, trying to take our guns, and trying to do whatever they can to make sure that once they fail this time, they can remain in power.
Absolutely. And that's going to play into our last topic that we're going to talk about as well.
Can I put my hat on now?
In just a moment. So it's also significant to note that next week, the Supreme Court is projected in handing down the biggest 2A or the biggest Second Amendment and impacting ruling since 2008. So almost in the past 15 years, the Supreme Court is going to be handing down a ruling. And this is going to be a ruling based out of New York, where New York was a may issue state as opposed to a shall issue state. So essentially, the argument is that under the Second Amendment and being able to protect your person at any point in time, are states allowed to deny you the ability to conceal carry?
No.
So there is the issue of is a state able to say that they may issue you one, basically saying that they'll decide based upon criteria that and questions that you answer that they may or may not issue a concealed carry license, or is it a shall issue? When you apply for one, you get one.
Yeah.
Although in Georgia we have constitutional carry thanks to Brian Kemp, and we're able to carry without a license altogether.
Yep. I think that's going to be very impactful, and I can't wait to hear SCOTUS's ruling on that because, like Justin was saying, what that's going to really determine is all the states that are not constitutional carry, if they are a shall issue state, then that means that you can just go there and get a permit. For what,
New York, California,
anybody,
Maine,
everyone,
wherever.
I can go over there, I can get a permit, and I can carry it. That means if I'm a constitutional carry state and I have business in New York, I can go up there, get a permit, walk out the door. I got a permit to carry a gun. If it's May, then they're gonna try to do everything they can. You got to be a resident. You got to live here for so long. You got to do whatever. That's something that I think
it's a massive step towards national reciprocity.
Yep. You know what? I think that's something we may need to call our friends with Georgia gun owners about.
Well, they're pushing forward wholeheartedly with that one, especially with the Americans. So the American Firearm Association, AFA.com. If you have the opportunity, go to AFA and look into what they're trying to push with that, or look into what they're trying to do with that, because they are quite frankly, one of the strongest gun owners right and advocacy groups in the country.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what they're doing with this. They're actually fighting, and unlike the NRA, they don't give ground on anything, because the NRA is actually kind of behind some of this stuff here. They're actually behind some of the red flag gun laws, which is something that we didn't actually cover on this. So a lot of what they're trying to do is enact some of the red flag gun laws, which essentially will allow.
I think it's time we put
almost. Well,
I mean, like you just said, the NRA is behind.
Well, they are literally.
Like, you need to show me that.
Hey,
well,
I can pull up the article.
I
can pull up the article now.
Wow.
They are. So the NRA was actually behind the bump stock ban. It was an ability for red flag laws not to be enacted at that point in time. Was that they essentially conceded to allowing the bump stock ban to be issued.
You teach me something every time we're on the show and talk about guns.
Yeah. This time they're conceding, instead of doing federal red flag laws and putting it on the federal state, they're conceding to allowing states to be able to decide. So essentially what they're trying to do is, or essentially
we
what
get
they're
to make
doing,
up our own red flags.
Exactly. And the federal government will pay states to enact some of this stuff and pay for the law enforcement proceedings to go behind it, pay for a lot of the studies to go into it. So it's essentially they're taking money out of the taxpayers' pockets again and putting it back into the states in another specific grant, to where the Department of Justice is funding states to be able to enact some of these red flag gun laws. And states in a lot of these instances will jump on that 110%.
I now understand. It sounds like they lost a lawsuit. You know what I mean? Because that sounds like,
which brings us into a whole new category. So another thing that they're wanting to bring up, and we just heard Joe Biden actually come in and say that this is one of his bigger issues, is he wants to remove the ability or essentially the quote unquote immunity from gun manufacturers from being or from being civilly sued by people that are affected by shootings from their firearms.
Yeah, so we talked about this. I'm pretty sure we talked about this on the show too, because it was
not the last one, but in the past we have. Yes,
because this is something that California tried. These are the people who actually believe
something that New York did.
And well, here. These are the same people who believe that we can actually move forward without fossil fuels. Good luck having rubber shoes,
or
tires,
or even the electric vehicles that drive,
or hair gel, or anything else that
or roads,
you know what I mean,
that they ride on,
or asphalt, anything.
Anyway,
these same people out of California who believe that in a couple of years we'll be outside of fossil fuel usage, also believe that we can modify the Texas law for abortion to use it for gun laws, because they want to say that taking our guns away and taking your right to use guns is the same thing as taking a life, which is not even in the same category. But
no, not even close.
It's the fact that they're willing to attempt this is where this comes from, and now they're trying to take that same liberal message from California up to the national level and use that with a conjunction of what's going on in New York to make some kind of gun control law.
It's essentially a bid to bankrupt the firearm industry.
Yep,
and
that's a good way of putting it.
It's time now. So one of the things that I would love to point out is that they're willing to remove the quote unquote firearm liability issue and stance, but they are not willing to remove the big tech industry liability stance. So we have seen multiple, actually absolutely just about in every instance where all of these quote unquote mass shooters have been radicalized or been mobilized to go out and create and to foster these or to really do these mass shootings. They've been radicalized within these chat rooms on these social media platforms.
Yeah. They go to private group chats on Facebook or through
Reddit, 4chan, all of them.
Even one of our favorites, Telegram, or even of that nature, because you can go into a private group chat. These are things that are actually tracked by the government, so they can actually see what's going on, which is how we can catch a lot of these people before they actually, get to the next level, because they're a lot more caught than actually are done. I say all that to say this, and we've talked about this before. Until we start talking about big tech's influence and getting rid of Section 230,
or it's modifying it anyway.
And exactly, and making them give them the same like restrictions against liability that we're talking about doing gun manufacturing, because they go hand in hand.
Well, I would say that big tech actually carries the abundant of the I guess they're more responsible than anything else, because although the gun manufacturer is creating a quote unquote tool, it isn't until big tech is allowing for the fostering of the communications between multiple parties to allow for that person that goes and create and does these mass shootings.
See, this is what
they are the ones that are fostering the ability for this to happen. They're the ones that are creating the environment that engages or that brings forward these people that create these atrocities.
I will say this: I don't want to say create. I want to say allow. Okay.
No, they create it.
And here's the reason why. Here's the reason why I'm choosing that word wisely.
FBI, 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 FBI.
Because
I gotta sync this on a little further. They're gonna see what I'm thinking.
Anyone who,
but you with me on this one?
As long as I have an Ethernet connection, I can do anything. I don't have to do face-to-face. I can do it through a CMD prompt or anything of that nature, right? So that's where a lot of this malfeasance goes into, and that's where you can catch a lot of people, is because they're using the Ethernet connection. They don't necessarily have to use a platform.
No, they're all on platforms,
right?
They're all on Reddit. Now,
I will say
the
4chan. Ones who are getting caught is because they have some handle somewhere, and they're going back and forth on multiple platforms.
Uvalde was Instagram, and then Buffalo was, I believe it was Reddit.
Well, so here's part of my thing too. Okay, is and I gotta take my hat off for this one because this one's kind of serious.
I'm keeping it on.
This is my problem with this is because this is by far, every situation where we can talk about, by far, is a mental health issue.
Oh yes, of course, absolutely.
And every time we start taking away from the conversation of trying to actually really dabble into upgrading our mental health facilities, care, insurance, everything that surrounds mental health in our country, we go back to what the most extreme of everyone has done.
Especially after a year of lockdowns with kids.
Because here's the thing, okay? The people who go out and eventually do something heinous, like we've seen, do it primarily because they've been crying out, and you can track it. They've been crying out and no one is paying attention or listening.
Mhm.
And that's why you can find someone who's been on Reddit, someone who's been on Instagram, someone who's been on Twitter, or all this other kind of stuff. You can go back and look, and I promise you, for the last couple of years or so, before they went out and did something heinous, they have given every sign that they are going through something mentally off.
Actually, I believe it's 2 or 3 weeks is what the latest studies have shown.
Well, so 2 or 3 weeks is something of the most extreme.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying is, if you track it over the entire period, from the first outcry all the way through the mixed emotions to the most heinous, right? Like, you can track that over a couple
Mhm.
years, and you can see that someone is like going public to try to get help.
Yeah, you're right.
And what ends up happening is that people either take it as a joke, they don't pay attention to it, and then when something morbid happens, they go,
Who'd have thought?
"Who'd have thought? I can't believe this. We got to do better care of our guns."
Mhm.
This person who did this thing in Texas, we forget about the fact that he killed his grandmother before that.
That takes a significant kind of evil there.
We forget about the fact that he intentionally crashed their car before going and killing 19 people, including 14 children.
No, so it was 19 children, two teachers.
So it was 21 people. And even like, so let's go back to even Las Vegas, when the guy stood out the window and just started randomly shooting people. We go back to the fact of like, he had multiple breakdowns across the social media of telling people he's having an issue and he wants help and he's doing all this, and no one paid attention. And it's not a situation where it's like you couldn't tell, to where people were saying, "Oh, we're giving you thoughts and prayers." You know, you could see it, but no one did anything about it. It's time for us as individuals to say, you know what, I see someone is hurting. I'm going to interject myself to the point to where they may be upset and they may be uncomfortable, but it's going to be better, because you never know.
Mm-hmm. So essentially what you're saying is we need to bring back the community.
Correct. Family values.
I love it. So let's jump into and you're gonna need this. You're gonna need your hat for this one.
I'm in for it.
Oh yeah. So is the Babylon Bee right? Are Americans running out of conspiracy theories because they're all coming true?
So this is why I wore my Squid Game shirt today, because I fully believe that, you know, we don't have any conspiracy theories. We never did.
So what
there's truth in every darkness.
Oh, that's very true. So what we're referring to is an Associated Press story and a Washington Post story that essentially came out yesterday on the 1st and said that, I know we told y'all for the past year or 2 years that these machines were not connected to the internet and they were not hackable and that they were protected and all this other stuff. Well,
we lied.
Guess what? It's not true.
We lied.
They came out and said that these machines were hackable, and that is based upon a report that is coming out of a federal case based here in Georgia, to where essentially they are suing to have the Dominion machines removed from the counties and to go back to paper ballots because they feel it's more secure. So what it is it's essentially the Haldeman report, and what it does is, and this has been confirmed by the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, the CISA, and it does show that there are several vulnerabilities, upwards of 9 of them, I believe, vulnerabilities within the Dominion voting machines to where they are susceptible to hacking.
Now, we say that, and we acknowledge that now. So there's two things I want to make a point to. Okay. The two things I want to make a point to is number one, this should stop you from going around and telling your friends that they've lost their mind because there is
Yes.
validation.
Mm-hmm.
The second part about this is that though we experienced this and now we can point and say, I told you so, we really should acknowledge that this primary and everything since SB 202 is correct because now we have a way. 2020 was a debacle because there was no restriction on absentee ballots.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
that was 100% the issue.
If you take away absentee ballots, Donald Trump won the state of Georgia. Absentee ballots were the issue. I think we can all agree that absentee ballots were the issue, or hopefully at some point we can come to the conclusion that all of us agree that absentee ballots were the issue. And this primary was, in factual, a great election overall.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what the report says, or essentially what the story says, is that the states, in other words, the state governments, could be.
Take my hat off because we're telling the truth.
Well, let's not jump to any conclusions here. So it says the state governments could easily detect a lot of these issues. It's just that they were not being vigilant enough in detecting a lot of them. So essentially, they were not going to the links that they potentially could have in order to be able to make sure that the elections were secure and that they were not being tampered with and everything on that on that line.
And we talked about this on a previous show too. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it goes back to the fact that like a lot of these things happen in rural areas, and you have this rural versus suburban discourse between parties to where, you know, our suburban brothers just didn't believe us.
Mm-hmm. So it says, so the CISA is trying to walk a very thin line in regard to this issue because they are trying to raise the alarm that essentially this is an issue that needs to be addressed, needs to be looked into, but they don't want to raise the alarm and to really discourage anybody from engaging in their constitutionally protected rights of voting. That's where, and that's what they're wanting to do. And it says these vulnerabilities, for the most parts, are not ones that could be easily exploited by somebody who walks in. And I'm quoting from the AP article here. It says by someone who walks in off the street, but they are things that we should worry could be exploited by sophisticated attackers, such as hostile nation states or by election insiders. And they would carry very serious consequences. And essentially, that's what Halderman, who is an election integrity expert from, I believe it's, I want to say Milwaukee, the Milwaukee University there. He's basically, his entire career is based upon election integrity and everything along that line.
This is interesting. So, what he says makes a lot of sense because
it does. Essentially, in his last quote that he says, it says, one of the most serious vulnerabilities could allow malicious code to be spread from the election management system to machines throughout a jurisdiction. The vulnerability to be exploited by somebody with physical access or by somebody who is able to remotely infect other systems that are connected to the internet if election workers then use USB sticks to bring data from an infected system into the election management system. Now,
so
what's the kid's name that was here in Rome?
The Eric kid.
I will say, I watched. No, this is factual. I was in the room. I was over his shoulder, and I'm stared at multiple times on here. He
filled out an affidavit for this. He filled out an affidavit.
I did fill out one. Watched multiple USB drives go in and out of that main election computer there.
So, you know me, I'm a big movie person. And I love B-rated movies.
Mm-hmm.
There is a movie called
It's weird.
The Crash. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's the name of the title. I can't remember, but basically, the theory of the movie is this: you have, and this is totally down a rabbit hole, but I'll come back up. The theory is this: In the movie, you had a Wall Street stockbroker who, now that everything is traded digitally, he was able to go in and hack Wall Street, and through his connection to Wall Street, reconnect all markets to his own offshore account. So everything that was traded that day was actually traded through his computer, and he could cipher off of it. So that when on the computer it showed, market may be down, but that's just because he's pulling a couple million, right? In that movie, it also talks about, because as it go and behold, the Federal Reserve calls him in to try to save the country because they say that Russia has now hacked the market when really it was the bankers, but that's a whole other ballgame, right? My point is that the theory behind that movie is similar to the theory behind this. What you could have happen is someone who comes in by an intra or internet infection. Because
you're tech expert in each county.
Correct. There's possibility for it.
Especially when the county has hired the Dominion Tech representatives.
Whoa. Whoa.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm just saying that as we go down this rabbit hole and through this conspiracy, I think the potential is
Buck
there.
doesn't think it's a conspiracy.
Buck thinks about a lot of things. I think that this is valid and is good to have some validation for some things from a credible source, which is what a lot of people were saying was not happening. We have the AP come out and say that it is credible, that some of the worries and some of the things that people were saying were true. That being said, again, I go back to my original statement. The likelihood across the board, minimum.
Well, they did come out and reassure everyone that there was no fraud in the 2020 Georgia primary based on their findings.
Yep. Or the 2022 one.
Well, excuse me, in the 2022 primary, not the 2020 primary. They explicitly said in the 2022 primary, because this election or this case is not trying to essentially overturn the 2020 election. It is to remove the voting machines and bring in paper ballots.
Because this is, well, and
that's
again,
not what that. This
I
is
have
not
a
what this
problem with
case is
paper
about.
ballots. I really do have a problem with paper ballots.
Oh yeah, we've
like
some people that have stuffed many a one, and know some people that have lost elections because of these things.
I don't want to be Florida.
Well, I don't want to be Mullis. Again, dun dun dun.
That paper ballots, to me, just, it's not the way to go. I think there's a way that we can do it electronically that is more secure and safer. But it is good to
broke Bobby Lou Suit's heart when they moved to electronic.
I know I did.
The state broke Bobby Lee. They broke Maclock's heart when they moved to electronic votes. We'll leave it at that.
Look,
and the Dixie Mafia over there.
God rest his soul. Look, I miss that man every day.
And on that note,
I miss that man every day.
Let's jump into the next topic.
Speaking of,
oh gosh.
Speaking of, right? So,
did you talk to him?
Who? Bobby Lee?
Did you?
I ain't talked to Bobby Lee recently.
Okay. Buck, you heard from him? Buck said he hadn't either.
Well, that's one of the greatest men that ever walked this earth, and he's one of the greatest Georgians that ever happened. So you better be cautious. We get real upset about Bobby Lee around here.
Him and the Dixie Mafia over
there?
That's
Madlock. That's my family.
Him and the Dixie Mafia over there?
Hell yeah, that's my family. Don't. I'm North Floyd for a reason. Chattanooga's my heart. I still go up there to eat dinner on Sunday
and the multiple ballot initiatives with the drop. I guess with the ballot boxes that showed up 2 days later.
That's
with,
enough. That's enough.
Oh, I know all the stories, man.
That's enough.
I grew up here too.
We're here to talk about Biden.
Okay. Now we're moving on.
We're talking about Biden.
So let's talk about it. Is the Biden administration legacy? Is it like putting lipstick on a pig?
So
because it's still a pig.
What was interesting to me was this was a CNN article.
Yes, it was.
CNN actually was the one who came out and said that Biden's staff is worried about how they don't know how to keep up the lie anymore.
Oh man, yeah, I guess it's telling when you're in you have such a massive staff. Of course you do. It's a presidency. I mean, he's got 70 folks that run his social media alone, and you have such an intricate network there. But this isn't from the lower people that are complaining and grumbling about this. This is like the higher up. This is the personal connection aides there that have interaction with them directly.
Right? So, what's funny is like only my significant other, she knows about this, but like I'm an old man at heart. I am the old man.
Significant other. It's news to me.
I am the old man who wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning and turns on Bloomberg to watch the stock to watch the stock market before
Fox and Friends AM for me.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
we're getting there, man. We have become our parents.
We have literally become our parents. I will get up in the morning. The first thing I do is I go to the bathroom and then I come out and then I sit in my living room and I watch two.
Does it take you 30 minutes?
No, okay. Not yet.
You hadn't gotten there yet.
Not yet. And then I watch, 2 hours of early edition or Bloomberg surveillance, right? And I figure out what's going on in the world market wise. And they were talking about this exact topic before I saw the CNN article. And the Biden administration is like, how do we even spin this? They have a 23% approval rating. At his lowest, Trump was very shy, was just shy of this. And
well, this is lowest. His approval rating is the lowest in the history of the country, or at least in the history of the polling of the country.
In the polling of the country, at this point, right? So, like, and here's what I mean by that, right? So at the absolute worst, President Trump hit, I think, at like 19%, but that was in like year 4, when generally everyone's side of the president anyway, right? They're either looking for something to do or they're looking for some issues to be handled. And with all the things that President Trump had on him, that was expected, right? So with this, to be 2 years into it, like this only show, like at this rate, by the time we get to 2024, he's like going to have like 2% approval rating.
It's worse than President Peanut.
Like worse than anyone. Worse than anyone. And now you have staffers who are talking to the press,
which is a major issue. By the way,
this is so for those of you who are in the political world, this is just as bad as the SCOTUS leak.
Well, I don't say that. The SCOTUS leak was consequential and massively worse.
Here's the thing, right? I don't think so, because, and here's why. There is a loyalty to the administration as a staff that is beyond no other, right? The difference that separated that from SCOTUS, because it's the same thing with the justices and their staff as it is with the president or any congressional member, right? The difference being is that they've never broken protocol before. 200 years, they never broken protocol. That's the first time.
Well, they're not loyal to a justice or anything like. They're loyal to the institution.
They're loyal to the institution. They're loyal to the law.
Yes,
which is supposed to separate yourself out.
Yes, which makes it worse.
Which makes it worse. To give example, those of you who've watched Hunger Games, right? No, was it Hunger Games? No, was it Hunger Games? No, Divergent. The movie series Divergent, right? The legal place that you go in Divergent, same thing. Like they don't break the law. That's basically how you should recognize the Supreme Court. They don't break protocol. For them to break protocol means that we have reached an era that has never existed before.
Because the Supreme Court is supposed to be above politics, and that's what this was a political
was a political move. Beforehand, we have had in the past at times to where staff has broken protocol, but it is very rare. It just has happened before. this is again another one of those situations to where, whoa, like this is made like it's one thing to do it for a congressman or a senator or someone in your like state representatives or something of that nature. The president of the United States,
especially when he has the potential or he has the option of running for re-election. I can see it if he were in his second term, in his second or third year, and there was no option to go any further.
you're out
after
the door
that.
anyway.
Exactly.
As a
But
staffer, you're going anyway. You're moving to the next office.
But the fact that he's second year,
he's not even through his first
massive.
term.
That's
he's not even through his first term, and they're talking like. And here's the other thing: they didn't talk to like the I don't the DC Examiner. I don't even know if that exists. I was trying to think of something that didn't that maybe doesn't exist. Like, you know what I mean? Like they talked to CNN.
Yeah.
You might as well just got on Facebook and said Biden's an idiot.
Yeah.
Like,
which is essentially what they did in their emails.
Like,
which at the same time are part of the National Archive now.
Yep.
So they would have been able to find them anyway.
Like, so everyone. Here's another thing. Everyone talks about FOIA, right? So if you go to the local government, you can go, and Freedom of Information Act allows you to really pull any email or anything that anyone has ever done from a government standpoint, if they're an elected official, if they're a staffer, anything of that nature.
Which, by the way, the Georgia Secretary of State's office is terrible at that, by the way.
No, I think they're good.
So the ones that I filed here recently, I just received an email probably 2 days ago that said that they needed extra time until the 6th of June to respond to my request.
So I will say this, right? A lot of that does have to do with making sure that they are able to pull everything. And
it's not that hard to pull.
It is. Trust me, dude.
No.
Just as the bureaucrat in the room, trust me. It's not as easy as it thinks. Like it like, you know what I mean? Like you gotta do the keyword search, you gotta pull everything, you gotta go through everything. But see, it's not just a keyword search, right? Because like I have to do the keyword search, and then you have to look through it, and you have to go, okay, well, like is this the
this
same
wasn't
thing?
this wasn't the massive one this was the secondary one that I filed just a couple of days ago, essentially asking for certifications, and that's it.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, this wasn't the big one. This was the very shallow one that I filed, and they're still asking for. They still ask for an additional week on top of that.
So you have to go through everything, and that takes time and a process on top of their daily work and everything else they're working on. I give them the benefit of the doubt.
It's a name.
I give them the benefit of the doubt. Anyway,
birds of a feather.
All off that tangent.
So
the fact that this leak happened, and the fact that it's not even really a leak. The fact that they just like basically went out to CNN and were like, we have no idea how we're going to spend this anymore. Good luck. What?
It's showing the light. It's showing the lack of a light of the end of the tunnel for the Biden administration,
and a lack of support of the current administration.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that several of them are saying maybe I should not have voted for him in the primary.
Which is why his approval ratings are at 23.
Well, there's a lot to do with that. So he's facing unprecedented inflation. He
still hadn't fixed the pandemic that he told everyone.
Exactly.
Like that's what got him over there to beat Trump. Still hadn't fixed it.
Exactly. And now he's facing the baby formula shortage. So essentially the 2022 toilet paper issue.
Yep. Still got a border crisis.
Oh,
and they're even coming in a bigger way.
Oh my gosh. Now. Yes. They are. So they detained a 200 migrant family just today, or a 200 migrant group just today at the border, and there's another massive caravan that's on its way here that dwarfs that by leaps and bounds.
I encourage everyone who's watching this to go to YouTube, and I want you to just Google border crisis.
Oh yeah.
Google border crisis. Google Texas immigration invasion. It's astonishing because like we're not talking about like when we used to talk about border crisis and immigration, like and I guess you could say like in the old days now, it would be like you got like 4 or 5 people running hiding behind bushes, you know, and they're coming at night. They're, you know what I mean? Like you might catch someone swimming across the Rio Grande, like and they're spotlighting, and that's how they caught him. We're literally seeing thousands of people gradually walk across a field like they're on the middle of the sidewalk or going across your lawn. Like imagine being those ranchers. You literally are just sitting outside, and all of a sudden 1,000 people just decided to cut through your yard.
And think about this. I've seen photos that have that. I don't know if everybody's seen them quite frankly, but it's they depict groups of between 10 and 15 middle-aged men in combat camouflage that are using that to then try and hide from Border Patrol. And they're using Mylar covers to try and block out the infrared signatures at nights. So they're using camouflage during the day and Mylar sheets at night to block out the infrared deal. So they're not going over and turning themselves over to Border Patrol. They are actively trying to do their best to get around them.
And I want to separate the two issues, right? Because here's the two things for me. Because I want to be clear, the drug smugglers, the ones that we were really the drug smugglers.
Well, they had no drugs on them.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Drug smugglers, the rapists, the ones that Trump was really talking about, they're tunneling now.
Mm-hmm.
They've been.
You won't find them.
You ain't gonna find them. You're not gonna see them on camera.
Mm-mm.
We're just talking about everyday, regular people who are just coming from South and Latin America, just walking across.
And the 14 terrorists that they actually caught that they know of.
Well, that's because they want to pay the cartels who are bringing all the other stuff through the tunnels. Because it's been documented that the cartels have moved to tunnels.
Oh yeah,
and they are moving tunnels up under the river and everything else to get people across.
So get this. So I read today that the Biden administration is actually starting to put physical barriers back into place on the border. They actually institute Mayorkas allowed to or said that we're going to start building some of these things out.
You know what we need to do?
Not the wall, but they're going to build out some obstructions.
We need to reach out to our friend. Justin and I have a friend who was a shh. He's going to be a guest on here, and he'll explain himself. He'll explain what he did and how that's relevant to this.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, right? So you got the failed Afghanistan pullout, right?
Yes. Which, I mean, what was it? $30 billion worth of military grade. $40 billion worth of military grade equipment. I mean, they literally had Black Hawk helicopters.
80. 40 billion was what we just gave away.
Well, so we'll put it this way.
80 billion of equipment.
We left better stuff in Afghanistan that we're giving to Ukraine.
So here
take that into consideration.
Here's my other thing, right? You want to take my guns? They want to take your guns, and they want to talk about gun responsibility and gun control and gun-free areas. They literally gave $80 billion worth of infantry to a terrorist. With no plan. Knew they were coming.
Yes.
Knew they were coming. Had intel that they were coming. Like Benghazi didn't believe it. Left it.
Terrorist.
Gave it to terrorists. Now, thankfully, hopefully, right? The equipment there was sophisticated enough to where it'll rot before they actually have the ability to use it.
Maybe some of the more sophisticated equipment, but not the hard everyday equipment like the AR or like the M16s, the M240 Bravos, the Mark II. Exactly. They
ain't fly them
but they'll take up a 50 caliber belt fed machine gun and mount it to a truck.
Yeah.
Which is in some instances more deadly than that.
Yep.
But gave it to terrorists. Yet they want to take it from 18-year-olds.
So in small circles, we've been talking about and I will say this, he's a great Georgian. He does great things.
Well, it depends on who you're talking about.
As a president, though, it wasn't really the best.
No, okay. Oof. I don't know where we're going with this one. I don't like where we're going with this one.
He's built great houses. He's done great things. He's a great Sunday school teacher.
Terrible president.
And a lot of people are linking the administrations of the Biden administration and the Carter administration as the same, because that's kind of the similar. It's kind of a similar situation. People talk about history repeat itself. The American people back in Carter's administration said, no, don't give the guns over to Afghanistan or Iran, and that's how we got Saddam Hussein. We're starting to see a similar pattern.
Well, I mean, then look at the gas crisis as well.
Yep. Another similarity.
So I was talking about President Peanut.
Another similarity.
So let's get into the last one. So Fauci,
thank God,
came out.
Squid Games.
Yes.
Look, that's why I literally bought this shirt to do this show. Because like anyone who has seen the show Squid Games, this is we're in America's like large version of Squid Games. That's basically what we're doing right now. Now all of a sudden the Democrats win and Fauci's like, I lied.
Yeah.
It's like Facebook. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, like everyone
not that he lied.
Oh, well, no, look, before we get into the Fauci thing, let's talk about other major liars who had to go testify under the right of perjury before they had to confess the truth, right? So Facebook gets up there and they say, oh no, these are facts. So then you got all your liberal friends who are like, see, you're a liar. Here are fact checkers. But then you get to Congress and the fact that he could go to jail for a long time. And he goes, these aren't fact checkers. They are actually people who check our opinions. And they basically say that this is an opinion that we uphold as a platform more so than these are actual facts as we can find them. And Google and all the other search engines don't do any better, because what they do is they take these fact checkers and they're like, oh, it's a collusion.
Collusion.
They collude. I'm putting my hat back on because that's basically what big tech has done.
Well, it's about you might as well keep it on, because we're going to jump in a little bit on that one. So essentially what it was, so Fauci came on to Fox News show with Neil Cavuto and said that the entire reason behind the DOJ's appeal that they issued out on Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah, so when they appealed the federal, I guess so, there was a federal stay on the national mass travel mandate. So you don't have to wear a mask when you're traveling nationally. Well, the federal government came back, or the Department of Justice came back and said, okay, we don't agree with that. We're going to appeal that judge's decision. Fauci came out and said, well, of course we're going to do that. We have to bring back power to the CDC to be able to institute these fundamental procedures to protect public health. So you have an entire bureaucracy of unelected people telling you whether or not you have to mask up before you can travel anywhere, issuing travel restrictions, issuing any sort of issues along this line outside the legislative procedure, and have no accountability to anybody other than themselves.
So let me bring back down what my highly intelligent friend just said. The CDC, the head of the
COVID task force,
the COVID task force and our health in America came out and said, the only reason why we are appealing this decision is not because of your health. We are appealing it because it reinstitutes power that we control over you.
Yep.
That's it.
Literally what he said.
Think about that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the fact that we technically could have gone back months ago, years ago, and demasked. Now, granted, there's still not taken away from the fact that this is still a virus. This is still something that's harmful, like clearly monkeypox. But
we're about to jump into that one, and that's what the hat's for. Because Georgia's seen its first potential case.
Oh, they're going to give me. You're going to pay me to take that shot too.
So Georgia has seen its first potential, or they're still trying to confirm whether or not it is a case of monkeypox.
I don't want to get into that.
And the person that has been quarantined for this disease says that he's done a lot of international travel.
It's AIDS.
You racist. But yeah, you homophobic racist. But yeah, he's monkeypox is in Georgia.
Go look up how you get monkeypox. First off, we're gonna leave it at that. I want you to go look up how you get monkeypox.
Buck, how do you get monkeypox?
Go look up how you supposedly get monkeypox and see the correlation between it and what we were told what the origin story of AIDS was. We're gonna leave that at that, and we're gonna go back to how Fauci's a liar. I believe it.
Interesting to note that Fauci was actually the major medical researcher and everything behind AIDS and HIV as well. He actually was instrumental in developing the whole, I guess you would call it the vaccine behind it or the treatments.
I've always one day, since we already made the South Park reference, one day, Stan Marsh, Randy Marsh, I'm going to sneak into the World Health Organization or NIH.
You're going to steal a pangolin?
I'm not going to steal the pangolin. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go in. Show me the virus room. Because if I see anything, here's the other thing that creeps me out. And put the hat back on. You can go to Netflix. I'm pretty sure they took it down. Okay.
Probably.
Because Facebook damn sure took it down. Because I shared it the moment that I found out about it. And that was when immediately everyone gave me a tinfoil hat. But Netflix used to have a Mandarin movie with subtitles on it. So for those of you who don't know, your jurisdictional code is how you get your certain movies for whatever streaming site that you're on. Okay. You can jailbreak it just like you jailbreak a Fire Stick. And you can tell I'm from the hood. Anyway, you can jailbreak your Netflix just like you can a Fire Stick. And it unlocks everything that platform allows you to view. Okay. So there used to be a Japanese movie or a Chinese, Japanese, Asian movie.
You racist.
That talked about a scientific experiment on the coronavirus. Okay. Talked about a China.
You literally can't make this stuff up.
You literally cannot make this up. And up until you had the situation with COVID was when you stop seeing anything about it. You couldn't find the movie anymore. You could not. And I swear I'm going to talk to a friend of mine because he's the one who showed it to me. I'm going to find the title and we're going to talk about it because basically what they said was that there was an organization inside of China who operates, from what I took from it, operates similar like the CDC, and someone messed up with an experiment and they made the coronavirus stronger than what it was supposed to be. And because this individual, like Homer Simpson, just, was in their hazmat suit carelessly, it got infected inside of them and they ended up carrying the virus out there. I am a firm believer that that likely happened. I'm not saying that this was I'm not saying this is biological warfare, right? I don't think anyone, now that's a whole nother rabbit hole. I'm not saying it's biological warfare, although the timing of it and the trade war are very close.
Put the hat on for that conversation.
They're experiencing more of a issue than we are.
Well, they just went back on the lockdown.
Which is why I don't think that it was intentional. But the likelihood that you have a area who is fully dedicated to exploring viruses and trying to find cures for them, there has to be a certain area where these mutations of them go in the opposite direction. And we have to cure them. Like we use the CDC and NIH for that here in America. There has to be an area for like that in China. Wuhan sounds like a good place for it. And, if something were to happen,
or Ukraine.
It just is what it is. I think it's something totally different as Ukraine. I went back and watched Hostel and its reference to Ukraine too. Anyway.
Man, we're going to have to bring out thicker hats.
I can go down a whole rabbit hole on Ukraine.
No,
and
you have no idea. You have no idea.
the restart to see if it can be a crypto hub.
Yeah. So
I'm not gonna tell you about my deep web stuff, but yeah.
so as always, we always like to remind everybody to like and share any of the content that you see that we put out there, as well as subscribe to all of our platforms that you see. By liking, sharing all of our content, you're allowing us to be able to be seen higher in the feeds throughout all the social media platforms that we're on. And go to the website that you see on our screen there, conservativestalk.org, and hit the sponsor tab in the top right hand corner or the bottom left hand corner or on the main tab. It all takes you to the same place. You're really helping us to be able to produce more of this content and be able to put it out, make it more widespread, and to get it to in the eyes of a lot more people, and to really get our message out and spread it out a lot more.
I do always want to add this, like our current sponsors, you have done
Yes,
tremendously
absolutely. Thank
with
y'all.
helping us get this out there, as well as because of you, we are now press credentialed. We are
Who'd have
now
thought they'd give us
national
press credentials?
When we first started out, this was really just me and Justin. We were like, we talk about this privately anyway. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. Because of our sponsors and the people who believe in us, we were able to not only get this message out, we are looking at other avenues as well as being able to be nationally covered by Net News Network. And thank you for our network with Net News Network for making sure that we are now nationally covered as conservative news.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and close out with your favorite part. Let's do it.
157 days until we beat Stacey Abrams. I cannot wait.
Oh, thank goodness.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Thank goodness.
Get out there and vote, because regardless of whatever you think about him, regardless of whatever you say, Brian Kemp is going to demolish, and I mean demolish, Stacey Abrams, and only you can help him.
If you don't participate and you don't get out and vote, regardless of what you think about it or regardless of any of that fact, it's your fault going forward and what happens, because you took your ball and went home.
Yep.
So
don't be mad.
Exactly.
Vote for conservative values across the board.
Don't be mad. Vote Republican.
That's it.
So that's going to be our new little hashtag.
So
don't be mad. Vote Republican.
Don't be mad. Don't vote Republican.
2022 Red Surge.
And that's going to get us sued.
Yeah. Well, we haven't brought that one up in a while.
Yeah,
but we're gonna
bring that back
next show. We'll definitely do that.
We'll dabble in some more conspiracy.
Yes. So as always, thank y'all for putting up with our antics, and we'll see y'all next week.
See ya.